Hello, everybody. My name is Debbie Solaris. I am a galactic historian, an Akashic channeler, and a Starseed intuitive. And we're going to take a little bit of a departure today. I just wanted to get more into informational material and things that have, particularly have helped me on my spiritual journey. And hopefully, I just want to share some things about that might also help you on your journeys as well. And one of the things that I think, value and I feel particularly grateful for is the books that have impacted my spiritual journey. And so today I just want to share with you a list of 10 or 12 books that I felt have had a major impact on my spiritual journey and why that is. And hopefully, we can all delve into this together and get into more information about each of these books, why they were so important to me, and what impact did they have. And like I said, I am going to share the books with you. Basically, if I don't have a physical copy of the book, I will. There'll be a picture presented on the screen of the book, and then we'll also have links in the description if you want to purchase these books for yourself. So before I get started with this big list, because it is quite a list, I do love books, as you can see. I have a library full of them. So before we get started, I do want to thank our sponsor today, BetterHelp. And I'm going to just refer you over to a little blurb about BetterHelp. Sometimes life just doesn't go the way we hoped. A relationship ends. A big opportunity falls through. Or maybe we just hit a wall that we didn't see coming. That kind of loss or disappointment can shake everything. Your confidence, your direction, your sense of peace. I've been there. You try to stay strong, but underneath you're carrying this heavy mix of sadness, anger, and confusion. And the hardest part? Feeling like you're supposed to bounce back overnight, like nothing happened. That's why I'm really grateful to be partnering with BetterHelp, today's sponsor. BetterHelp connects you with a therapist that can help you process loss, find clarity, and move forward at your own pace. Most BetterHelp members are seeking support for anxiety, and 69% say they've seen improvement after just 6 weeks. All you have to do is fill out a short questionnaire, and you'll be matched with a therapist in just a few days. And if the first match isn't the right fit, switching is easy and free. With over 7,000 reviews and a 4.3 rating on Trustpilot, BetterHelp is a platform you can trust. Let BetterHelp help you rule your anxiety so it doesn't rule you. Go ahead and click the link in the description, betterhelp.com/Debbie Solaris, to get 10% off of your first month of therapy. Okay, once again, I just want to thank BetterHelp for sponsoring this video and supporting me in my work. Anyway, let's get started with the list of books. So let me bring that up real quick. So these are my favorite spiritual books, and we all want to know what these books are. So let me go ahead and get started. So the first book I'm going to talk about, I feel grateful to this particular book because it kind of started me on my whole spiritual journey, even before I knew I was on a spiritual journey. So I have to say this is probably the first spiritual book I've ever read, where there was some underlinement of metaphysics. And so the book I'm talking about here is this little gem by Louise called You Can Heal Your Life. And I love this book. I actually first read it in the early 1990s, pretty much long before I was awakened, at least by today's metaphysical standards. And the reason why this book is so valuable to me and why I love this little book so much is because it taught me that I could have mastery over my own life and not be a victim of circumstances and other people's decisions. So in many ways, this small book by Ms. Hay was the very first book I've ever read, which started my spiritual journey and my consciousness expanding beyond our physical reality. And I still use this book to this day, So I think what I love about this book is that a lot of the concepts, where she's talking about different health issues and what could be the underlying emotional components that might be influencing some of the health issues that we might be experiencing, is still resonant even today. And so I still use it when I do Akashic readings. So if I have a client that is struggling with some issues, maybe some long-term health problems or diseases, sometimes I'll pull this book out even now and look up, like, say, cancer, for instance. So I might look that up and see, what does that represent as far as the underlying emotional issue. And so I do love this book a lot. I still have it. I recommend it to anybody that wants to take a deeper dive into maybe doing some shadow work or maybe even seeing what the underlying emotional components might be as far as dealing with their own health issues. So that is Louise Hay, You Can Heal Your Life. The next book I'm going to talk about, which I recommend all the time to my clients and my students, my Akashic students, is The Prism of Lyra. And this is by Lyssa Royale Holt. This was one of the books one of the very first ones I've read that actually contained quite a bit of galactic history. So how I got introduced to this book was after my extraterrestrial contact experience in 2012, I started to have like a lot of mental downloads of galactic events enter my memory, and particularly about Lyra and the Lyra Draconian Wars. And these were very disturbing. For a while there, I thought maybe I was going crazy because I didn't know where all these memories and images were coming from. This was even before I started learning about reading the records, the Akashic Records. So here I was thinking I was going crazy, and I started taking a bunch of spiritual classes, and I started reading a lot of books. And so I came across this book, and of course, Prism of Lyra, that was the star system I was seeing a lot of in my visions. So when I finally came upon this book, this was around 2013, 2014, it helped me to realize that I wasn't making up these visions, that they were actually based on actual events that happened in our galaxy millions and millions of years ago. So for me, it was so great to get validation for my downloads from other human-based channeling sources, So Lyssa Royale Holt has been channeling for quite a few years. And I have to say that the information she presented in this book really aligned with the visions I was getting, back in after 2012. And it helped me realize that, maybe there is something to these visions. Maybe it's not just stuff I'm making up or anything like that. I haven't personally met Lyssa Royale Holt yet. I hope I get a chance to, or get the honor to meet her one day. Because if I do, I'm going to give her a big thank you for starting me on my path with this wonderful book here. The next book I'm going to talk about, which I don't have a physical copy of, but I've read it so many times that I just feel like it's a groundbreaking book, is The Three Waves of Volunteers in New Earth by Dolores Cannon. So we'll present an image here for you. So this breaking group book by the illustrious Dolores Cannon is the guideline that I use for Starseed generational personality and mission templates when I do Akashic readings and in my Akashic reading practice. So it's a book I refer to quite a bit when I'm doing readings, because a lot of times I'm looking at my clients and I'm saying, okay, what generation of Starseed are they? Are they a third wave? Are they a first wave, or maybe a second wave? Or maybe they're even beyond that, So To me, it's not only valuable in that sense of giving, some sort of classification for starseeds, but it's also one of the very first books ever written, in my opinion, that has thoroughly and wholeheartedly explained why there's so many starseeds that have incarnated on planet Earth during this particular modern timeline. And I think, pretty much Dolores Cannon, I mean, she's a legend. I mean, I consider her, for the forefront of, modern metaphysical and starseed, information, that's been shared out there, throughout, the last, a couple of decades. But, she was somebody that was way, way ahead of her time, just really doing work that was so groundbreaking and so revolutionary when she was starting to do hypnotherapy sessions back in the 1970s and 80s and even into the 90s. She was starting to, compile together information that has laid the foundation for even, for the Akashic Records movement that, I'm currently a part of and, bringing to the forefront. And, I'm just very thankful to her. Again, I never met her in person. I never studied with her. But I do consider her a pioneer in this industry for bringing this information forward. And again, another really valuable book. We're going to move on with books. So the next book I would like to talk about, I think it's one that I think a lot of my Akashic students know that I refer to them all the time, is How to Read the Akashic Records. And this one is by Dr. Linda Howe. Now, when I was trained to do Akashic Records readings back in 2014, I was taught, I wasn't taught by Dr. Howe, but I was taught using Dr. Howe's methods. And even to this day, I still refer to this book, and I still really subscribe to the methods that Dr. Linda Howe has put forth in order to help make the Akashic Records accessible by all of us, not just by a select few people. So this particular book here, the reason why I refer my Akashic students to this book so much is because it's considered to be the Bible of Akashic Records readings. And it's still as relevant now as it was when it was first written decades ago by Dr. Howe. And like I mentioned before, it was the first book that my actual Akashic teacher here in Colorado used when she was teaching us the guidelines of accessing the Akashic Records. And it's still a book that I still reference a lot, so very valuable little book here. It's an easy read. I mean, I think anybody can read this and understand it. And I think that's the beauty of Dr. Howe's work, is that she was able to make this accessible and make it so, it's very digestible for all of us to use these methods to access the records. So I still use her pathway prayer process. I love it. I mean, it's awesome. So again, How to Read the Akashic Records by Dr. Linda Howe. Moving on with the books here. So this is another groundbreaking book. And this was actually written, I think, back in the 80s. I mean, this was not a new book. So it's called We the Arcturians by Dr. Norma Milanovich. So when I first had my first ET encounter, so I had an ET abduction experience, if you want to call it that. I don't consider it an abduction, but I had my first contactee experience in 2012. And the race of beings that I encountered during my experience was the Arcturian star race. So at that time, I had no idea who these beings were, other than just, encountering them in an out-of-body experience, So I started doing a massive amount of research around, these beings, because I never heard of Arcturians before. And so one of the first books I came across was this little gem of a book called We the Arcturians by Dr. Milanovich. So just with Linda Howe's book, and also with Lyssa Royale's book, this book also helped me to realize that I wasn't the only person having encounters with these alien beings. And it also validated a lot of my own experiences with them. So as I was reading this book, I was like, oh, wow, she's talking about what the Arcturian ships look like, and what their culture was like, and what their personalities are like. And that was exactly very similar to what I experienced. And it really gave me a lot of validation and made me feel like, okay, I'm obviously not making this up. I mean, this is some real things, because other people out there have also experienced this. So if you're interested in Arcturians and you love Arcturians, or just want to know more about their race and who they are, definitely pick up this book. This one is actually signed by Dr. Milanovich. So I actually consider it just a valuable little book in my library. So we're going to move on with more books. I still got a few that we're going to go through. So thank you for hanging in there. This is another book that I've had for a very, very long time. And I read it even long before I knew I was on a spiritual journey. And that is this book by Dr. Carl Jung called Memories, Dreams, Reflections. So this little book by the famous psychiatrist, Dr. Jung, is another book that I first read way, way back in the 1980s or early 1990s, that I think in a way expanded my consciousness to some degree. So the significance of this book is that it taught me pretty much the importance of symbolism and synchronicity in our day-to-day lives, as well as within our spiritual journeys. And one of the stories of this book that really had an impact on me, maybe it's because I had an Egyptian past life, I don't know, but was a story about Dr. Jung was talking about dreams with one of his clients. And his clients had a dream about scarabs, scarabs in Egypt. And so just as she was talking about her dream, Dr. Jung saw this golden beetle in his in the window of his office, and captured the beetle and gave it to the lady and said, here's your golden scarab. So I thought that was always really interesting, just the synchronicity of her talking about her dream. And then here's this beetle that shows up in real life, to maybe amplify the importance of the dreams. So if you like psychology, if you're a Dr. Jung fan like I am, you will definitely love this book. Moving on with books. So I didn't get a chance to talk about astrology yet, and I'm a big fan of astrology. I'm not an astrologer myself. I don't consider myself to be one, but I do integrate a lot of astrology when I do Akashic readings. I find it very interesting how a lot of times somebody's natal chart or their, astrological placements will oftentimes correlate with what I see in their Akashic records. So the two books that have had a huge impact on me in my spiritual journey has been Sun Signs by Linda Goodman, and also the companion book to that, Love Signs, by the same author, Linda Goodman. So like I said, I've always been a big fan of astrology. I incorporated a lot in my work. And so these were books I actually read back in the 70s and 80s, and I've probably had these copies since then. So, but I still have these books, and the reason why I still use them is because I think the information that Linda Goodman was presenting was not only way ahead of her time, because she was, I think, wrote these books back in the early 70s, but but also I think they're still relevant today, so, and I know astrology is really popular now, unlike, back in the 70s, but, so a lot of us are, loving all the, different memes and video shorts out there about different astrological signs and their personality traits. And to me, I see a lot of correlations between astrological signs and even starseeds, starseed lineages. Like I'm actually doing a study right now where I'm trying to see if there are certain sun signs or astrological placements that align with certain starseed lineages. And I do see like a lot of water signs, for instance, are, people born under water signs are very aligned with Sirius. A lot of people that are connected to the Pleiades seem to be born under the sign of Taurus, So, those are sort of pretty basic. It's not all encompassing, but I do, and also see a lot of air sign people that usually have a connection with Andromeda, so those are some correlations that you might want to look into if, you're curious about the connection between star lineages and star seeds and astrology. I do know there are galactic astrologers out there that can also do a chart for you. Maybe at some point, we might invite, maybe a whole video on that topic alone, because I can go on and on about that topic, about galactic astrology. But for now, we're just going to stick with the books. But I hope these books are helpful to you, even though, they've been around for quite a few decades. So moving on with the books. Next one that I thought had a huge impact was The Starborn by Solara. Now, this was a book that was also written decades ago, and this book was way, way, way ahead of its time. My understanding is that it's no longer in print, but the galactic history and the concepts that Solara wrote about back in 1989 are even more relevant now than they were back then. So if you're interested in the higher order of the universe and the balance of divine masculine and feminine God consciousness, as well as the part that Arcturus and the Orion belt stars played in our galactic ascension process, I think this book is well worth reading. So you might want to check out your local used bookstore or even, Amazon, and see if they have a copy of it available. Like I said, I think this book is out of print now, but I do think there is still copies available out there, so maybe you have to buy a used version, but very interesting book. One of the things I really got a lot out of this book was the relationship between the Mitaka star system and Arcturus, that these were considered to be sister stars, and that, Mitaka in the Orion belt stars was actually a portal between the Orion Nebula and the Orion Light Councils, and Orion being that middle portal, and then it was the gateway to Arcturus, which is the gateway of souls. So again, really interesting book if you can get your hands on a copy. Moving right along here, so we got more books, another couple of books here. So this one here, I don't have a physical copy of it, but I do want to talk about it a little bit. So this author in particular is very polarizing. I think some people either love his work or hate him. But the book I'm referring to that really had an impact on me was Blue Blood, True Blood, Conflict and Creation by Stuart Swedlow. So, like I said, a lot of ways, Stuart's work was very polarizing to people in our spiritual community, as he also delves very deep into the MK Ultra and other sinister government agencies on this planet in this particular book. But this book was very valuable to me in illustrating the concept of extraterrestrial colonization of Earth, which actually confirmed a lot of the information that I was seeing myself in the Akashic Records. So I was seeing certain star races that were inhabiting, certain parts of the planet, and why they were, certain star systems or certain star beings that were in certain parts of the planet as opposed to other parts of the planet. And I kept seeing this and I was like, is this real? Am I making this stuff up? And then I read this book by Stewart, and I was just like, holy crap, he's talking about this. He's actually talking about the same thing I'm seeing in the records. And so it just blew my mind. I mean, I was just like, wow, okay. He's onto something. So I don't have a physical copy of this book with me. I think I have it on Kindle or something, but I do. I think we're going to show an image here so you can see what the book looks like. And, hopefully, if it's interesting to you, if you want to understand the relationship between these star races and why they were so interested in planet Earth and what impact it had on our history, this might be a really valuable book to pick up. So last but not least, so this is the very last book I'm going to talk about today. And it's probably one of the most expansive books is The Keys of Enoch by J.J. Hurtak. Now, I've actually met the Hurtaks. I think they're wonderful people. They've been on a very big mission to expand consciousness and to bring information. And I feel honored that I had access to this book even long before I was able to meet them in person. And so this book, which was channeled by Mr. Hurtak decades ago, is very inspiring and thought-provoking. And it's an amazing work of spiritual knowledge with very interesting ideas. Now, it is one of those books that I think everybody should have in their spiritual library. I think it's one that you might have to read it again and again because it's not really the easiest book to understand or even to read for that matter. It's very, very esoteric, very deep. There's concepts in this book that I'm still struggling to understand, even though I feel like every time I reread it, I feel like I'm, getting a better understanding each time. But I do believe that if you're interested in your own spiritual development and you're interested in understanding the importance of our spiritual evolution and why we are on this path and what role that we're all playing and how we can develop ourselves even further by developing our own Merkabas or getting into astro traveling and connecting with our divine selves, then definitely check out this book, The Keys of Enoch. Now, this is not a cheap book. I think even back when I purchased it over a decade ago, I think it was almost like $100 for this book. It might be even worth more than that now. But if you can get a used copy or get something or get your hands on, maybe, somebody's copy, might be worth, adding this to your library. So once again, I do want to thank our sponsor, BetterHelp. So BetterHelp is there to help us on our own emotional healing journeys. So I'm grateful for them for sponsoring the last few videos. And I just want to thank you again for joining me with, checking out some of my valuable books in my library, why I love them so much, what impact they've had on me. And hopefully, if you decide that these books also resonate with you, that they also help you on your own spiritual path. And I could have gone into so many more books, but I had to limit it to 10 or 12. But anyway, we'll have also the links to these books if you want to pick them up on Amazon on the description below. So once again, I always invite you to share, like, and to subscribe to my channel. It just helps me to bring more of this type of information forward. Thank you again for joining me on this video and joining me on this spiritual journey. Many, many blessings. I love all of you. Take care. Bye-bye.